Till now you guys have seen Windows VMs spawn on VirtualBox or on VMware, which just emulates or which virtualizes or provides a hypervisor in order to run old operating systems. It's not stable, it's not easy to use, but we have got today a new set of steps, a new software or rather an emulator which will help you spawn VMs, and these VMs are not just virtual machines, it's an emulated virtual machines which basically takes care of the hardware translation as well, along with just giving you a way to just run old Windows VM. So we will be looking at PCEM, which is basically a PC emulator for Windows and Linux, and it enables us to emulate old PCs, whether it's an IBM PC or it's an old 286, 386, 486 machines. It takes care of emulating all the stuff, along with making sure that the 3D acceleration capabilities, which are very useful to run old games, are also available to the user. So let's dive into this new emulator and let's try to spawn Windows 95 emulator using this particular software. We will also try to run various games that require 3D acceleration, and we will use its own emulation capabilities in order to run the 3D acceleration on these old games, and we'll be using Voodoo graphics like we used to do in old PCs, and it will run in the same way as it used to run in the old PCs. So let's have a deep dive into this and let's get started. First, going with the downloads, you will need to download the actual PCEM, and I downloaded the latest version, that is version 17, from their site itself. You need to extract it in order to run that, and I've extracted it here in my program files folder so that it's convenient to use. And then the next thing that you need to download is the ROM. So ROMs are basically the emulators itself. It will contain all the different types of PC emulators, and you can find those ROMs in this particular archive.org link. You need to download them, and then you can use the 7-zip utility to extract them as well. Once you extract all of the items, please make sure all the items inside that ROMs folder are being placed in this ROMs directory shown over here. And this is the PCEM application. You can pin it to the start menu, and this is the configuration manager of the PCEM utility. You can use this to create the emulators, and you can use this to edit the configuration as well. Now for Windows 95, we will need the Windows 95 boot disk, which is the image of a 3.5 inch 1.4 meg floppy drive. You can see I have placed all the files at my desktop for just easy retrieval. So this is the boot disk, and you need to extract this as well in order to get access to that disk image. Disk 01 is the image for the boot disk. Next thing you need to get is the Windows 95 ISO itself, which is the disk image of Windows 95 installation. I have a different installation that I use in my other VM installation video. So this is the disk image, which also has Microsoft Plus built into. So this disk 01.iso will be your ISO image. The third thing you need to use is the S3 Verge display or graphics card driver. This you can find in the link, and I will make sure to put all the links in the description so that it's easier for you to download them. So we'll download the 7-zip file, and it will contain the driver for the display card, which has 2D capabilities. So these are the drivers. Next thing you will need is a Sound Blaster 16 driver for the audio card, although it's given as part of the Windows 95 installation, so you can keep it downloaded, but by default it installs the audio driver, so I don't think we will need it separately, but just in case you do, you can keep the download file. So next thing is the Voodoo 2 driver itself, which is the driver for our 3D FX card, which will enable the 3D FX capabilities, and we will be able to play games with a high definition and with really good graphics and performance. So this is the file, and this is the link from where you can download that particular driver. Now we will use the PCEM configuration manager in order to create our emulator. So create on the new icon, then you can give your VMs or the emulator's name. We will give it Win95. Press OK, and then you will find the option. You can see a lot of machines here, but the best option to choose was the Shuttle Hot 557, which had a lot of CPUs that were compatible to it. We will be using an MMX CPU to get the MMX capabilities, and MMX 166 was very stable, but we are going to use a little bit higher clock Pentium. So you can see we are going to use the MMX 233 MHz because it has a decent clock speed, and for memory 128 megabytes will be an overkill, but still we'll go ahead with that. In the display driver, in the display card, we will use S3 Verge DX, then we will enable the Voodoo graphics. We'll not change anything in the S3 Verge menu, but for Voodoo graphics we will change the Voodoo frame buffer memory size to 4 MB, texture memory size to 4 MB, and Voodoo type to Voodoo 2. Then click on OK. Then we will go into the sound menu and we will select sound device as Sound Blaster 16, and we will not touch any other settings. Then in the disk and the storage section, we will select the standard ID as the hard drive. For floppy disk 1, we will select a 3.5 inch 1.44 meg disk, and the rest of the items will be left as it is. I will be using this C drive and the type will be hard drive, and we will have to provide a path where it can keep the actual file. So we'll create a simple Windows 95 directory here in my path, and I will give this name as disk C. It will store it as a form of raw image, and for now I will give it 4 gigs, so it should be more than sufficient. Along with the C drive, I will also make sure I have another drive with me just for storage purposes. So if you click on drive 0, primary master, you can see primary slave, secondary master, and secondary slave. So we can configure the primary slave as the second hard drive. We will give a new file name to it, and we will give the same size, 4 gigabytes is enough. And on the same path, I will just make a new file with disk D, which will be our D partition for the Windows 95 emulator. Now once these drives are created, that's it for the storage section. We will keep the mouse, joystick, and the network card as default because we don't want the network capabilities. And now our Windows VM is ready. We can click on load and you can see the old school boot screen with the energy logo, and we can definitely stretch our output. Let me see where the option is. Yes, we'll select resizable and we can just resize the VM window. We can also toggle it full screen, and we can use Control End to toggle the focus on this window or the actual PC. Now you can see it has disk boot failure error message. So for the drive A, we need to go into disk section and click on the drive A option and select the disk1.img, that is the boot disk. Similarly, we need to select by going to CD-ROM and selecting the image disk01.iso for the Windows 95 ISO. Now after this, you can just hard reset the PC and you can see now it should boot from the disk itself. We'll select the first option, load NEC ID CD-ROM driver. Make sure that you have little patience during this installation because it clearly emulates the speed at which the old PCs used to work. It will be a little bit faster, but since we are using a 233 MHz CPU, it will take some time. Now once you have the prompt available, run fdisk in order to configure your disk. We'll enable large disk support. Then we'll go with the default options on the screens. We'll select Y and then escape. Now we'll choose option 5 to change the disk to the second disk that we configured. And then we'll select the same options in order to create the proper partitions, and then we are done with the fdisk. Now it's asking to restart our PC, so we can restart our emulator by clicking in hard reset. Once it boots back to the disk image, you can click and select the load NEC ID CD-ROM driver again, and once we get the MS-DOS prompt, now we can run the format C: to format the C drive. It will ask yes or no, so we will proceed with the format since we don't have anything on the disk, so we can clean up the full disk. This formatting process will take some time, so as I told you, you need to be a little bit patient. Once format is complete, it will ask you for a volume label. After calculating this free space, you can opt to give any label or just click enter if you don't want to give any labels, and your C drive is ready now. Similarly, you will format also the D drive that we configured, and it will also ask for a volume label, and once you provide it, then you have both the disk availability. Now let's go to the E drive, which is the CD-ROM drive, then in Win95 folder, and then run setup. This will run the setup for the Windows 95 installation. Click on enter, then it will do some scanning, and once it finds no errors, you can exit it, and then it will initialize the Windows setup. So this is the first screen. You can click on continue, then it will prepare the wizard for the setup. Then you will get the license agreement, which you can click on yes to accept. After that, the Windows installation screen will come up. You can click on next, select C/Windows for the Windows directory. I will go with the typical option. You can click on custom and choose different options, but I would recommend to start first installing it with typical option. Then you can go ahead and add it later on once you install the complete Windows OS. Now here you need to give your serial key, so you can provide your serial key, and once you have provided, you can click next, where it will ask you a username. We'll give ZuzGaming as the username, then click on next. Now it will analyze your computer and ask for what kind of add-on cards you want, so we'll select sound, MIDI and video capture. We'll not select network card since we'll not need any network connectivity as such, and it will take some time to analyze the computer for the hardware, or rather the emulator for the hardwares that we have selected. Once this completes, you can install the most common components which is recommended, then click on next. For startup disk, select no because we don't need a startup disk, then next. Now it will copy the Windows 95 files after you click on next. So now once it is complete, you can restart your computer, click on finish. It will ask you to remove the floppy disk from the drive, so you can click on disk and eject drive A, and then click on OK. So it will just restart your computer, and it will load from the boot disk, which is your C drive, the primary master this time. You can see starting Windows 95, getting ready to run Windows 95 for the first time. And here, after it loads, you will see it will just look for the new hardware stuff that is available on your emulator, and it will try to add those. Now it will do some initialization of the Windows environment. You can see programs on start menu, setting up Windows help, some program settings, then time zone. In time zone, you can select your own like whatever time zone you belong to, and once you select it, you can click on apply and then OK. And for printer, we'll cancel it because we don't want to set up any printer. Here you can click OK and it just restarts again. Now you can see the boot screen of Windows 95. So this is the first time that you will boot into the Windows 95 environment. Now as soon as you boot in, it will ask you to do some setup. This is only related to the Plus OEM disk that I have used. It will ask you to set up an Internet Explorer 4.0 active setup, something like that, and it will install some active desktop components and all those things. Unfortunately, you don't have a way to cancel it, so you have to go ahead with this particular setup. Only thing is that it will take considerable amount of time, so I will just fast forward here till this particular thing gets installed. And once this configuration is complete, you can see the active desktop is enabled on your machine. Now I'll go into properties and I'll go into settings, and you can see only 16 colors is available. So now we need to install our video drivers, or the drivers for the S3 Verge card. So for that, let's go on to the place where we downloaded our drivers. So these are the 3 drivers that we need. I'll just select all and create an ISO disk out of them. I use a utility called as Power ISO to add an image file, and it will just create an ISO file containing these 3 directories. So this will be my driver disk. I will go to CD-ROM, click on image option and select the image that I just made for the drivers, and once that is done, I can see that my disk is loaded, and now I need to install the drivers. As I told you that sound drivers are usually installed by themselves, so you don't need to install it manually. If you have any issues, you can use that particular utility to install that driver. Now for the VG drivers, let's go on to the settings again, click on advanced options, then click on change just near the graphics adapter part. Then click on have disk, and you can browse to the S3 Verge directory in the disk that we mounted. Click on S3 Verge, you will see this INF file. You can select that, click on OK, and it will detect your display adapters. Click on OK, and this will now enable your S3 Verge card emulation, and you can see the color palette changed to 256 colors. And you can also change the resolution, which we will do now. For monitor, you can just go ahead and select no. So we don't need to set up a monitor. It will do a restart of the PC, and as you can see by the difference in the colors itself, the 256 colors mode is now enabled. We have the resolution also set to a higher value, and you can see that everything is active on the S3 card. Now the next step will be to enable the Voodoo card as well. You can see this file which does some kind of a unzip. So just open it, and what you can do is you can just unzip it in a particular directory. I will unzip it in this C Voodoo 2 directory. It will unzip all the driver files that are required in order to enable your Voodoo 2 card. Now once this is done, just verify that the files are unzipped, and then you can go ahead and click on properties of my computer, go to device manager, and just check that in the sound, video and game controllers you don't see Voodoo 2 already. Now to add this, go to control panel, click on add new hardware, then click on next, and when it asks for Windows to search, click on no, and then from the list select sound, video and game controllers. Then click on next and click on have disk. Now you can click on browse again and browse to the place where you extracted the files. So click on Voodoo 2 inside C, and you can select the first file v2auto.inf, and you can see that it has detected your Voodoo 2 3D accelerator. Now click on next, and it will enable the 3D acceleration capabilities and install the required drivers and enable it for your particular PC. In order to validate that, you can go again in the my computer's properties, go into sound, video and game controllers. Currently it will not show it, but I think you need to restart your PC once. So once you restart back, go again to the device manager, and in the sound, video and game controllers you still doesn't see. So if you have such case, then you can see in the other devices it's saying PCI multimedia video device, and there is a question mark just before that. So it means it has installed something related to Voodoo 2 card, but it has not picked up properly. So what you can do is click that, go to driver, click on update driver, select no, and then you will automatically find the model that you installed some time back. And it will also require you to insert the disk again, so you can again traverse to the same directory of Voodoo 2, and you can select this 3dfx DLL file, and what it will do is it will install all the required libraries and everything, and then it will just ask you for your restart. Just be patient with the restart. If it gets stuck, you can just click on hard reset like I did here. Once the restart is complete, you can again go to device manager, and in the sound, video and game controllers, now you can see the Voodoo 2 3D accelerator. So this wraps up all the drivers installation. You can see there is a 3dfx Voodoo menu separately in the display properties this time. Now let's go back and again mount the Windows 95 ISO here, just to install the Plus package, which will have a lot many things like desktop themes and everything. There is a Plus directory, you can go inside it, and there will be a setup file that you can run to install the Microsoft Plus. It will ask you the name of the user again, then it will ask you your product ID or the CD key again. You can give those details. It will just ask you for a path where to install it. Then it will give you two options, and I will click on the custom option, and I will make sure that everything else is present. I will select all the options, and it will ask to run some maintenance task. You can select no, because this is not a mission critical PC, so system agent is not required to run any maintenance here. So click on no. Now it will install everything that is needed. It will ask you to set up a desktop theme, but for now I will go with my favorite theme, that is the dangerous creatures. I think it will ask one more time for restart, I guess. Yes, so click on restart Windows. It will restart it once again. And you can see the boot screen has also changed to now Windows 95 Microsoft Plus, and we have booted into the Windows again with the new theme that is applied here. The next step now will be to install some games, and also some games which has the 3dfx capabilities. So we'll just go through those games now. So these are some games that I have installed. We will just start with the Need for Speed 2 SE. There are two versions that is coming with the game itself. One is the normal software rendered mode, which we will just take a look now. So as soon as we run this, we get a really good nostalgic feel, and there are a lot of cars. And I remember like there are many good locations. We'll just select the Ferrari 355 F1 and just race. So this software rendered mode was the one that I played most on because I didn't have Voodoo card in my childhood when I played this game. So I remember this stuff. Although the graphics were really bad, it looks really bad right now, but at that time this was like the pinnacle of graphics that I had seen. Like I spent hours and hours and hours playing this game. So as you can see, the graphics are very rough right now in the software rendered mode, but the good thing is that you have a in-dash view available. This is not available in the 3DFX version, so it's only available in the software rendered version. So now let's go to the 3DFX version. You will see the 3DFX splash screen as soon as the game launches. So in the 3DFX mode, in the menu options, there is not much of a difference. I will try to cover NFS2 as a different video itself because it has a lot of things to explain. So currently coming back to the 3DFX mode, whenever you load, you can see the difference actually. The textures, the shadows are a lot smoother, and the graphics are also I would say consistent. There are like not pixelated elements present over here. So that is the beauty of this particular emulator, PCEM. You get to run your old games that you used to play in your childhood, or if you want to play it right now as well, there is now a way to play all those games. So for now we are currently working with the Windows 95 VM, but for sure I will be coming up with videos on Windows 98 emulator, XP emulator, where we will install the games which were famous during that era. And for sure, if you have the disk with you, or if you have a way to install that game, you can easily install it. So let's quit NFS2 and let's move on to the next game. After the videos, you have the big game mode, which is the actual story mode of this particular game, and it's a long game. We will maybe have a retrospective for this game as well as a separate video. For now, let's just go to a thrash mode and just select Napa Valley as our destination and just drive the bikes. It had really cool cutscenes as well. So I remember there is a cutscene for each and everything that happens. If you get busted by a police, there is a separate one. If you get hit by a car, got wrecked, it has a separate one. So yeah, this game was like totally different from like any kind of game that was existing over that time. And the best part was this, beating up your opponents to just make them fall out of their bike. So you can kick, you can punch, and there were some characters in the big game mode which had chains and I think stick as well. So yeah, it was a really fun game. And you can see the red cutscene over here. So yeah, really detail oriented game. Like the developers really had a lot of things on their mind. So the next game is Microsoft Fury. I remember playing this game as well. I'm not sure how many of you might have played it, but I have spent a quite bit of time on this game as well. So let's start this game. It doesn't have like really good graphics, but it was very fun to play, and the music was also like really a good part of it. It's just a mission game wherein you have to travel a distance and you have to just fight off the fighter planes that will be coming to you, and you'll just have to save yourself. Make sure you have enough health, and there were like many different kinds of weapons also that gets introduced. So yeah, this was also a really good and a fun game from Microsoft. I haven't covered like classics like the Prince 3D, Sky Roads, and there are many other games as well. But in my earlier video that I made on the Windows 95 VM, I have made sure to cover it. So please check out that particular video if you want to see the gameplay of Prince 3D or Sky Roads. So guys, I think that's it for this particular video, and I hope that you have enjoyed this journey of creating a PC emulator, because this is the most stable way to run old Windows 95 games, or if you want to get like the clear nostalgic feeling that you had. I think this is one of the most easiest ways that I have found without any issues, like as compared to the hassle that you get by running other kind of virtual machine softwares. This has some kind of a learning curve, but once you learn it, it's very easy to spawn new emulators, and you just need to know what kind of hardware is compatible for that particular Windows, and you can go ahead and easily run it. So I hope these steps will help you, and I hope that if you want to run this emulator for yourself, you will be able to do it easily by following these steps. So this is the end of the video. I will see you all guys in the next one. Please stay tuned and please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.